So this check from the Atlantic County Democratic Committee was made payable to the Atlantic City Democratic Committee. However, they have confirmed they have never received the contribution. Instead, they believe that Atlantic City Mayor Frank Gilliam took the check and deposited it into his own campaign account. So now joining us is Durwood Pinkett, who is a member of the Atlantic City Democratic Committee. Durwood, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity just to put some context into this in terms of what my investigation has yielded. And let me give you the floor now to share your thoughts. And please, if I've said anything that's incorrect, please set the record straight now.
Good morning, Hurley. Thanks for having me on.
Yep.
Well, it was a couple things that one thing, it was pretty accurate besides one fact that just came to light recently, and that is that Frank Gilliam's campaign manager, Rich Winstead, was involved and did handle the checks at some point. That's the only thing that you did leave out. So we just want to keep everything in its proper context.
Right. And by the way, that's why I'm happy that you're here and you're happy that you can expand. I didn't leave it out. I didn't know that until you just said it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What? Do me a favor, because I want to write the name down. Who is the campaign chairman?
Richard Winstead.
Richard, and say the last name one more time.
Winstead.
Winstead?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you say he handled the check at some point, do you know, did he negotiate the check? Did he put the mayor's name on it? Did the mayor put his name on it? When you say he had the check at some point, what does that mean?
Exactly what he did, but I believe he was a courier from point A to B. He was the courier. I was told that the checks was actually placed in his hands. So
the chairman, Suleiman, gave the checks, I'm assuming you mean the $37,000 check, which would be for Frank Gilliam, and that, of course, should be negotiated by him in his account. And he also picked up the $10,000 check that should have gone to the Atlantic City Democratic Committee. And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but is that basically what you're saying?
Let's just try to get the timeline first together. So we don't know what happened to the checks because we never received them. So we're trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And as you said, we found out about the checks that when we were voting on our finance report at our regular meeting, and our chairperson, who is really the point on this matter, I don't know, would really be more of authority because she was briefed in more detail than a lot of us committee members. We haven't been able to because this is all dynamic and moving at the time. We haven't been able to sit down and really go over the details of it with one another. But it's one of the things that we're trying to piece together. We know that we never received any funds. We know that Michael Suleiman and the Democratic Party in Atlantic City community in general, because I in the words of one of the people that I heard, and I love this quote, Frank Formica says, when it comes to Atlantic City, we're all bipartisan. Because we live in a small, diverse island, and it's a village. I don't care. We can give it we can build fancy buildings. We can call it what we want, but it's still a nice hometown village where everybody should be looking out for one another.
Sure.
And that was.
Yeah. I like that. I agree with that.
And the committee, I just want to make one disclosure. Can the people on the committee, Harry, and the community at whole in Atlantic City in this past election came together, dispelled all the rumors of people not working together, whites, Bangladeshi, Pakistani, Asian, Latino, everybody worked together for this election. And this group that was formed across this city was a very, very, very hardworking and dynamic group. And that's why even without being funded, you can see now we were still successful with the help of a lot of factions, including the Callaway faction. Everybody just worked together.
Let me ask you a very blunt question, Durwood. How did the committee handle the news, the Atlantic City Democratic Committee, that a $10,000 contribution from the Atlantic County Democratic Party that check had been generated, yet you didn't get it, which obviously you could have used that during the campaign. And I guess it's fair to say if the Atlantic County Democratic Party had intended for Frank Gilliam to get $47,000. They would have made a check payable to him for $47,000. There was no campaign limit between, the county organization and the city organization or any candidate. It's not like, we got to give $37,000, but then we'll sneaky write this other $10,000 check to somebody else, but you take that too, and it's all going to work out great. So I think it seems rather obvious that $37,000 was meant for whom it was made out to, and $10,000 was made out to whom it was made out to, the Atlantic City Democratic Committee, but it did not go down that way.
Yeah. Well, to you lead off, most of the committee members are still probably stunned, sitting in front of their computers or phones or anything, looking at this check that's been circulating around. It's probably the same document that you just represent. It was anonymously emailed to quite a few of us over the evening hours last night, and it's just one of those things that we're stuck with right now. We don't know which way to turn with this, but I do know that when Joyce first saw notice of this check to us, she was appalled. She almost fell out of chair in the meeting. She stood up. She couldn't get her words out clear because she just didn't understand how we were given $10,000, and it started. This is what added to the chaos in the meeting that night, and I just want to provide a proper context for some of our listeners. The check issue preceded anything with Ernie Aponte, who serves as counsel I hear he's since resigned.
Yeah, I brought that up clearly as an unrelated matter, but just one that I thought was of interest. But please go ahead.
So when Joyce brought this matter up, it completely changed the whole meeting. The air in the room was sucked out at that point. And Joyce made it adamant and clear to Suleiman that we never received the check, but we tabled the matter and said we would look into it. So in the course of the last few days, different people on the committee looking into it. The county, Mike Suleiman, turned around to be a lot helpful in helping clarify this issue up and at least get us to understand where the check went.
Do me a favor, Durwood. Please hold. We've got to get a break in. We'll continue right after the break. 22 minutes past the hour. If you're just joining us, if you go to our website, WPGTalkRadio.com, my opening statement is on our website. Later today, the audio of this interview will be paired with it. Chris is doing that. So you can catch up if you've missed any of that on our website. And in a moment, when I can breathe, on my Facebook page. So you'll have a link both there and directly at our website. And again, Chris Coleman will put this interview as an accompanying piece to our breaking news story up at WPGTalkRadio.com a little bit later this morning. In fairness, the interview is still going on, so it's not up yet because we haven't completed it yet. Durwood Pinkett is our guest. He's a member of the Atlantic City Democratic Committee. As we go into the break, if you're just joining the program, the Atlantic City Democratic Committee was supposed to receive a $10,000 donation from the Atlantic County Democratic Committee. The check was issued. It was made payable to the Atlantic City Democratic Committee, but they never saw it. They never knew about it. They never got it. And instead, the check has been deposited back in October. The check is dated October 12th. The check was deposited directly into Atlantic City Mayor Frank Gilliam Jr.'s account with what appears to be his signature on the back of the check. I've seen the front and the back of the negotiated check.
Hurley in the morning. WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
We continue our exclusive this morning with Atlantic City Democratic Committee member Durwood Pinkett, and we're talking about a $10,000 check that was written by the Atlantic County Democratic Committee to the Atlantic City Democratic Committee, who never received the check, and a slew of documentation from ELEC reports to the very check itself clearly indicate that unless, and we've invited, I sent a text message to Mayor Gilliam to comment either now or, and we're getting closer to my 8:45 interview with Ed Klein. I'm going to open up the 9 o'clock hour if Mayor Gilliam would like to respond to all of this at 9:05. We're actually going to either postpone or shorten National All-Star Gary Aldrich in the interest of being fair to Mayor Gilliam and giving him an opportunity to respond to what's happened here. But the signature on the back appears to be his. I've seen it before. If not, it's somebody signing it for him. And it also appears that it went into his account. And on his ELEC report, it has the $37,000 and it has the $1,000. So there's some level of transparency here, but the check didn't go where it was supposed to go. All right, Durwood, you were saying.
Yes. And at the end of the day, the Atlantic City Committee and the hardworking people of Atlantic City are the victim. I don't know where the money went, but for all the hours that were volunteered, and everybody knows what goes into Atlantic City politics. And to be quite honest, John Guardian and Marty Small were the establishment candidates in this last election. And Frank's success was bred out of the hard work and tenacity of these volunteers from the Atlantic City Democratic Committee and the community at large, including, all the other groups that get involved, from Rochelle Salway, who's an old warrior. And these folks are seniors, and a lot of them don't come out and won't stand up to something like this. And I think that the new blood that came into this process over the last election are not allowing politics as usual to dictate the future of Atlantic City. So we're going to hold anybody who tries to interrupt and stop the progress of Atlantic City accountable. And that's going to change the paradigm in Atlantic City politics. And that's the reason why I came on the air today, Harry, because we can't allow things to be business as usual, sweep it under the rug, and keep moving forward.
Now, what in terms of just the money itself, are you as a committee going to ask for $10,000 to come to the committee from Mayor Gilliam? Obviously now this is going to open up a hornet's nest of probably investigation. Hate to say it. I really do hate to say it, but criminal investigation in terms of, what was going on here and why was the intended party denied, their proceeds, and it was deposited, somewhere else where it wasn't made out to the person that negotiated it. So what is the Atlantic City Democratic Committee? What are you looking for? Are you looking to get also not only the truth out, but also to get the $10,000?
Well, Durwood Pinkett's only one voice out of many on the committee. I got to say that first. Joyce Molyneux, our chairperson, along with the board, the committee's legal counsel, will probably direct the next steps. We haven't sat down as a whole to discuss that. So if Joyce calls in, we get a chance to speak to her. She's definitely the authority at this point on which way this direction, which from the city committee standpoint, she would be the person that would be able to give you a better idea of exactly what the next steps are with this in this process.
Fair enough. And we know Joyce. What was the atmosphere like when the Atlantic City Democratic Committee started to learn the facts and connect the dots and say, whoa, how are we $10,000? We're not reconciling. What are you talking about? What was the atmosphere like? Was it disbelief? Was it, shock? What was the flavor when everybody started to learn what had happened here?
It was just like, when you probably received the news of it. That's not a small thing. And $10,000 in terms of hosting $25 fundraisers, and things like that over the course of the cycle that the county had to do, beef and beers and going around the state, because Atlantic City Democratic Committee in the last election only received $500 because at the time the committee was defunct, it wasn't really working well, it wasn't performing. So the state and the county Democratic committees had no reason to invest in it. So with all the energy that we put forth, it was a reason for that type of investment now to accommodate workers that got out the vote. And those people still work, and that's why I have to give it up. And that's why I'm calling in, because everybody still worked in spite of getting paid zero during this election, besides whatever other volunteers they could pick up working for an individual campaign or so. But most of us did. Most of us stayed true to the committee and worked the process all the way through.
So in other words, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but this is how I take what I'm hearing. to know that you should have had $10,000 that as a committee you didn't even know about, what that could have done to further, the cause of Democratic candidates being successful on the election, that the committee cannot be very happy about this development.
Exactly. No one on the committee is happy about that. No one I've spoken to is happy about this event. Even the people who helped Frank, because most of us on this committee, even though it is a diverse committee, some people like Mike, some people like Frank, some people like Don. It's just that type of organization, but everybody still worked to achieve a goal. And to find out that we could have been a lot more organized and a lot more efficient in our efforts with that money, that is something that's bothering to a lot of us.
Have you heard, as I have heard, that there are other potential issues not involving the Atlantic City Democratic Committee, but other checks that were made out to other parties that may have been treated in the same manner?
I've heard all type of rumors since this election, but I can say this much, Harry. The only thing that I can confirm is that a check was written to the Democratic Committee. It was, at this point, we see that it was deposited into a different account, not the committee's account, endorsed and put on someone else's elect report. That's what I know. The other checks, I have heard tons of rumors, but I don't want to speculate if they're true or not. At this point, we know one thing for sure, that the $10,000 check for the Atlantic City Democratic Committee, we didn't receive, and we did not authorize anyone to use those funds.
Durwood, is there anything else about this that you either want to share, haven't had the chance to share? Because I know, based on what's happening right now with just my phone and my social media, that's absolutely blowing up. People have a lot of questions. I don't know if you want to tread into the waters that I went into, and it's not a flyer with me. We're of opposite political parties, Mike Suleiman and I, but I think he's a good man. Anytime I've ever talked to him, his word has been good to me. We have a good relationship. We have spoken from time to time, not often, but more than a few times. And I've always found him to be straightforward without even speaking to him yet, which I'm going to call him later today. I have held him harmless. I don't think there was any attempt here other than for Frank to get $37,000 and for the Atlantic City Democratic Committee to get $10,000. I think he is completely held harmless in this. Whoever wrote the checks made them out properly how they intended them to be, and yet they both were negotiated by one party, and they weren't split the way they were supposed to be. Hey, this is my check. Sure, that's going into my Gilliam for Mayor account, but this check is for the Atlantic City Democratic Committee, and this should have gone into your account. So I think this all happened after the county sent the checks, out to each party, and it just, the Atlantic City Democratic Party's check never got there. That's what I think on that point.
Well, I totally agree with you on that. And to add to what you said about Mike, he usually is, what you see is what you get with him, us being family. And I want to say the Democratic Party and us the people who work together, we are a family. And Mike, I believe Mike had sincere interest in his position as county chair to get out the vote. And he made sure that we had a well-financed operation to do it. And I commend Mike for that.
Yeah, so, I do too. I think he's very straightforward guy and does a great job advocating for his party. And I didn't feel obligated to do it. I wanted to do it. I wanted to hold him harmless here because I know the other people would say, hey, what was a little funny business going here? I'll make this one out to you, make this one out to that one, but you got them both, no problem, here you go. It didn't go like that. That's how it ended, but that was not the county's intention.
No, I know for a fact after speaking to Mike Suleiman, Mary Sloman, the vice chair, and other people on the executive committee for the county Democrats, county Democrats had no idea of this either. To my knowledge anyway. And I believe what they said because it's always been sincere and upfront with the county committee, between us and the city committee. So I don't have any question in my mind that Mike did the right thing.
Before we run out of time, and it's going to happen in the next few minutes, Durwood, Where does the Atlantic City Dem? I know you're only one member, and you're not, speaking for the whole committee. But in your estimation, where does the Atlantic City Democratic Committee go from here? Now it's out. Now it's out to the public, and it's now out at harryhurley.com and WPGTalkRadio.com and WPG Talk Radio, over the air. And on my Facebook page, it's out now that the city Democratic Committee didn't get a $10,000 check that the county Democratic Party intended to contribute to them. So what, and what do you do from here?
Well, one thing we're going to do is the community and the people who got together to help unify this city, we're going to still continue to work to bring forth a better life for the residents of Atlantic City, to do our best to contribute to the process and to help Atlantic City become that world-class destination resort that it's known for. And the other thing that we're going to do is, I believe that everybody's prudent and stands on their principles. We'll see how deep this rabbit hole goes, because in light of this is all breaking news, and then you just on the air now, I'm finding out from you that there's other individuals claiming the same thing occurred to them. So I don't know how deep this is going to go. Nobody knows where it's going from here, Harry.
Durwood, good to talk to you. Anything else before we go?
No, that's all for now.
Good to
Thanks
visit
for
with you.
having me on.
Yes, it was a pleasure. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.